So I got a bit of a surprise here. Didn't know this was coming, but this is a CMP Hydra Grapple. And this is a grapple that is designed for excavators. It not only grapples, but it also rotates. So this means it will be awesome for doing any kind of stonework, rock work, moving anything that is not directly perpendicular to the machine. It just has so many purposes, so many uses, and I'm really excited to try it out on a few things. But before we can try it out, I purchased this with the electric diverter because I only have one auxiliary feed to my boom. So that means that I need to install a momentary diverter button in there that allows me to swap between the grapple function and the rotate function. Hopefully that install is not too bad. I remember when I was installing the lights, it was pretty easy to get to everything. It's just a matter of finding all the points where I need to connect that up and put it in the joystick, which for the E26 I have the universal type joysticks, which have some open spots for buttons, so that should go in pretty good. But this model right here is the 51, which is a thinner metal 61, and that basically shaves off like 150 pounds and kind of fits this more for the 6,000 to 8,000 pound machine range. I think it's around 350 pounds total, and has about a 42-inch width opening. It also comes default with serrated edges, and since I was ordering it, I also went with rubber and teeth. For the smaller grapples, they have these cut steel teeth versus the shank and tooth, because from what I was told, they found that the larger teeth did not fit with the spacing on these smaller grapples. These teeth will definitely be great if I want to do maybe some demo work or some more fine picking. And of course the rubber edges will be great for doing any kind of paver work or step work or block work where I don't want to damage any of the material. So I really want to use this thing, but I got to spend a little bit of time installing that electric diverter kit first. All right, it's only been about a month since I got the grapple. I've actually got it on the machine. So I originally was going to install the electric diverter on my own, and I had started doing that. However, the button that I got with the kit and just the generic access to wiring in this machine for that kind of stuff was more of a pain in the ass than I wanted to disassemble. So I ended up just bringing it into Bobcat for actually a 750-hour service. Actually getting this eyelet installed on the back here so I can shackle stuff, and then just getting them to install the diverter because I figured they would have the right parts. At least they could look it up in their system and order them, because I don't really have access to that. But it actually turned out that even for them, getting specific buttons for these joysticks is almost impossible. You have to just order a whole new joystick array with the specific button set you want, and I don't even believe that was available for this one. So in that kit, they send a generic momentary button. You can find them on DigiKey. They're actually insanely expensive right now. I'm not sure why. Probably manufacturing problems. I had originally taken apart my entire machine here, got up to the joystick, took this apart, and actually underneath this rubber top piece is an ovular hole and then a square switch underneath it. And the switch that they sent is a half-inch diameter circular switch. So I tried drilling this out underneath this cap here, and I couldn't really get the switch to fit. And so I was expecting them to maybe have a spare switch right here that they could order, or maybe in hand, because this is a very generic controller. But that was not the case. So what they ended up doing was tying into this button right here, which is the secondary hydraulic. And I only have one hydraulic, thus why I have the diverter. So swapping into this switch is perfectly fine for this machine, and I don't really have any intentions of getting a secondary hydraulic, but if I want to, I can always swap this back, and then we can put a switch over here and just jerry-rig it in however it works. But overall, it was just easier for them to do it. I got the wire all the way down through here and started messing with some of the fuses on the other side, and I'm like, oh man, this is just going to be too much of a headache, because there was nothing. I couldn't find any wires sitting in here, or even up to the harness on this guy, that were live at 12 volts while the key was on. I mean, other than messing with this button here, which I didn't want to do because I don't have any of the wiring diagrams. So I would have had to go underneath the console over there and find one for the cigarette lighter, go all the way out to the fuse box on the other side, because everything underneath here is pretty much just hydraulics, except for my light wire, which I was lucky with because that traces right out to the boom. But anyways, I just swapped these lines down here on the block because it was in the reverse direction for what I'm used to. So now everything should be correct. So might as well go play with it now. I tried it on 1 or 2 rocks earlier, and oh man, it's kind of fun. All right, so that's pretty fun. You know, doing any of the weird rock placements like I just did on those last 2 or 3, where you gotta rotate the thing around to get it in the right spot, and just being able to kind of grip it almost at any angle makes this a whole hell of a lot easier to make these weird rock walls. I mean, this isn't anything serious. I just kind of picked whatever out of that pile, and you know, I was able to just kind of like fit these things together in a nice little farmer's rock wall. Anyways, I mean, it's not, I would spend a lot more time on this to make like a real wall, but just grabbing whatever rocks and then kind of twisting them whatever angle to get them to fit together, it looks pretty good. And that's like the key thing about this attachment, is that it allows for so much flexibility, not only in placing rocks, but doing other things like steps or edging or big patio blocks, logs, brush. It just lets you sit the machine in one spot and not have to go around the entire work site just to get the right angle on something. It's kind of like you saw in the video where I was setting the flagstone patio. I really had to angle my machine with the boom and get the right distances and everything, and then play with the thumb and the bucket at the same time to get the right placement of that piece of flagstone. So this kind of just eliminates that problem completely. Lets you do these really neat things pretty quickly, pretty effortlessly. And so far out over the blade, I'm lifting, you know, pretty hefty sized rocks, and it's not really a problem. I did bring the 50 in to get a diverter and a K-strain installed. So I got a K-strain on the 50 here so we can do some flail mowing and things like that. And then for this one, for the joysticks on this machine, they're slightly different than the 26. They were able to do kind of the same thing, where they just ended up using the button provided and swapped it out where the secondary hydraulic selection is on this joystick. So both machines are ready to go for using any kind of diverter requirement attachment. So that grapple isn't really designed for this size machine. I think you get like 2 models up for this size machine, but since it's quite an expensive grapple, and I ended up getting this machine months after I'd already ordered the grapple, I'm gonna make do with it on this machine when I need it, and just be careful with it and not really try to do any digging activities with it. Really just kind of use it for picking and placing, and not really forcing anything into place, because I'll probably wrench the metal just because this thing has so much power and weight. So let's maybe go to a couple of the other piles I got around here. I got a whole bunch of small rock all ready to go for some projects around here. I'm gonna go try and mess around with some of the big ones in there and maybe some big ones over there and see what our pickup limit is. So that to me right there is extremely impressive. My machine can't lift this rock up past like halfway out. The boom actually goes into pressure relief. Even the bucket curl will go into pressure relief, but the grapple not only grips this thing completely, but it also will rotate it while it's vertical. that's a lot of power and a lot of leverage on that thing. So I think that's really impressive, because that means it's definitely powerful enough to be moving rocks that are bigger than my machine can handle. So for at least with this machine, I know it's more than likely not going to have any problems. That's really awesome to me. Yeah, I mean, this grapple is going to be awesome for if I have to load out logs, load out stumps, load out brush. As long as I can bring it to that kind of job and it makes sense, it's going to be great, because you can really finesse how exactly you want to get those stumps in, and it makes it a whole lot easier on me, because I don't need to reposition the machine 100 million times and get parallel or perpendicular to whatever kind of material I'm picking up. And as you can see, I can just pick up the logs, especially these pines, which are somewhat dry at this point. You can pick them up at full extension, just spin them around, put them whichever way I want. And even some of those bigger stumps I was moving around, I was hitting the hydraulic relief because some of those are really big 2-footer stumps. But I'm really excited to use this. And actually, I have a project or two around here that I want to use this on to begin with. The right side of this road is pretty low, so when anything that's tall, like a triaxle or my truck and trailer go up here, it has a pretty good tilt to the right. So I want to take a bunch of rocks and raise this up another row. So basically what I have to do is try to find some decent rocks between the few different piles I have to use for this project. And of course I can still keep digging into that hill and probably pulling out some more decayed ledge out of there. That'll pop out easily. It's just a matter of getting good sized rocks. Like all of these rocks right here came from a job I was on. That was pretty much all like nice granite and full size rocks out of that site. So I took back what was extra. But the other few piles here are all just from my yard. So it's mostly just that decayed granite on the top of the ledge that I've been peeling off. So right now I just have the 26 here and the BX, since the other two machines are on jobs. So I'm definitely going to make use of this CMP grapple to go through and sort some of these rocks out. All right, so I'm kind of out on the corner of my property line here underneath the power lines. And I was kind of looking at this little outcropping of rock right here. This might be freestanding-ish. I don't know, I was gonna try and mess with it. All right, so what I figure I'll actually do is just kind of go down this hill here and just kind of scavenge out whatever I can from the top, just so I get a good idea of the selection that I have that's easy access anyway, because I know there's some bigger ones down that way. But these are some pretty good sized rocks, all things considered. I mean, you know, that's my 9.5 size foot against them, and that grapple is picking them up no problem. It's really, I have the limitations of how much the machine can lift, especially with the thumb on it and the long arm. It puts a lot of weight out there on top of it being hard to actually get much height with that extra length of the grapple. So once you're fully sucked into the machine and the grapple's pinched up, you're pretty close to the ground. So when you have those bigger rocks in there, once you're fully curled all the way in, you're really on the ground level still, so you have to end up pushing the stick out, which pushes the weight further. So it's kind of a little bit of a trick, but honestly, this thing is, this grapple is freaking awesome. Okay, have all my equipment back at my house, so I can start working on this wall over here now. Alright, so I got a bunch of the rocks over here, most of the longer flat ones, the kind of stackable ones. Alright, so last year when I did this, I kind of just made these walls fan out behind one another, and probably going to do something similar. I'm not going to stack them right on top of these rocks. I'm just going to try to take a little groove out of here and place them up behind these because I have plenty of space to work with. It's mostly just bringing this side up some more. All right, so that grapple worked awesome. I'm still super impressed by how well it works, especially on this smaller machine. Like, I was able to pick up all of these rocks and place them. And they're all pretty big rocks in comparison to the size of this machine, with that extra weight on the end. And of course, the biggest benefit is being able to rotate the grapple. So not only could I place all the rocks nicely, but I could also do a little bit of digging and a little bit of grading and a little bit of groundwork to prepare spots for rocks while also being able to pick up the rocks. And the biggest benefit of this is, of course, I can put the machine wherever I want it when I'm placing the rocks. So in this scenario, being able to just track up and down where I was getting the rocks from and where I was placing them was great. And it also let me put the machine in a better spot to be able to keep my balance on the hill that I was on. Much better than having to go out wide and change the tracks of my machine every time I want to come in to place a rock. Just so much more efficient, so much faster, and it makes a really neat wall with it. This will let me raise this upper portion by about a foot, maybe get about 2.5 feet in here where the machine is, and then fade it back down right into the road where it is, and that'll take a lot of this pitch out of the road and bring it up so it's more level. Now for the lower portion of the driveway, I'm going to probably hold off on doing that part until I end up clearing more of the grass and figuring out my grades down there, because I do want to extend the extension over some more so I get a wider entrance into my driveway and have a bit more space to make it up and over the wellhead area and lift that side up some more. So that'll probably conclude this demonstration of this CMP grapple. I am really excited to be using this on some more jobs. I actually already used it on another job that was completely unrelated to boulders. It's just going to be such a useful attachment that it may very well be on here probably 90% of the time. You know, I'll probably only really swap to maybe the grading bucket, and when I'm doing like a real clearing type job where I got to do some stumping or really heavy groundwork, then I'll swap to the digging bucket. But I mean, otherwise, you can just do so much work with this bucket that it's just, there's almost no reason to take it off. So yeah, looking forward to using it some more, and see you guys in the next one.